for SharePoint. It's Microsoft Lists and SharePoint Lists. We'll take a look also at some of the new Q&A capabilities for Yammer live events. Some things that are changing around names for Microsoft 365 apps. And I thought, Daniel, we might want to have a little talk about some kerfuffle that happens, or is still happening, around Productivity Score on the socials. Rolling. Alright, welcome to the 365 Message Center show, where we help you plan for change, prevent or fix, probably prevent and fix actually. Stay informed, definitely stay informed. Hello to those of you joining us in the chat room. Hello, Suzanne Hunt. Always keen to see, or happy to see another Kiwi in there. Daniel, we do have a few interesting things to talk about this episode. Some other things that are like, okay. You know, one thing that really stands out to me this week?
What is that?
There's an absence of a certain icon. Maybe even a certain message type, which, if we talk about like days with or without, those sort of safety boards you have around the workplace that say, accidents since...
Days without an accident.
Yeah, what are we missing here?
Do we want to talk about it now, or are we going to talk about it when we get there?
Okay. We'll talk about it when we get there, but we won't get there, see, because the messages are missing.
Oh, right. Yes. I don't see any color. Well, okay, there's some color in the icons, but
yeah,
not too much.
So, look, Daniel, let's just get straight into it, because I think there's some interesting things to talk about around Productivity Score. The first message on the list, take it away.
Yeah, this is list rules make it easy to set up notifications of changes. And it does actually have a SharePoint icon, by the way, in the message center. MC227447. This is if you read this, it is, the title is kind of like a promotional. It's kind of odd when we get these messages where
we're getting more
the title. Yeah, the title is more of marketing rather than telling you what the message is about, right? But so this is all about what's called list rules. And this is in Microsoft List and SharePoint List, because we all know Microsoft List are just SharePoint List all brought together for you. But this is giving you the ability to create rules, users with edit permissions on a list, not those that have read only, but those that can edit, will be able to create and manage these rules. And what do these rules do? It's basically notification kind of rules, to where you could say, if it really reminds me of the if this then that kind of thinking of, if something happens with this list, let me know. So you'll get a notification email. So make sure that number one, if you create these rules, you'll be looking out for those emails. And no, this really doesn't look like, they haven't told us. Now, I did ask about this functionality, what's driving this, and a fellow MVP did kind of make note that this was talked about at Microsoft Ignite, and he said, this is not coming from Microsoft, but he said that this is not Power Automate or Logic Apps. So when I look at this, I would agree with that. This does not look like Power Automate or Logic Apps. This really looks like it is being driven by SharePoint functionality. So what you'll do is, under the, we have the automate. Before, it used to say Power Automate in the list integration in SharePoint if you wanted to go and create a workflow. Well, we talked about this on the show. I don't remember what episode. It's been a while, but they removed that and they made it Automate, and then they put Power Automate underneath that. So you would go to automate and then click on create a rule. And then you go through and you kind of walk through of what are we looking at when we are creating this rule? Are we looking at a change in a column, a value in a column, a new item is created or an item is deleted? And then what do we do? So who are we going to notify when this happens? And so you can actually select a person, another person other than yourself, or a group to get notified. Who you can notify the person that created the item or modified the item. So there's several options here. It's not just the same alert me type of functionality that we've had in SharePoint since, I don't know, forever. And we still have in SharePoint Modern. But it does give us that kind of if this, then that kind of functionality within these alerts. I like it. It has not rolled out to me yet, so I wasn't able to test it. The rollout period is late November, which we are in now. I'm in the last day in November. Hey, Darrell, how's December doing? I forgot to ask you.
Well,
December doing okay?
December is still here. It is definitely coming. Can't say
Okay,
what it'd be
great.
like in your area of the world, but
Well, for me, it is snowing right now. So it is last day of November for me, and it is snowing outside. But so the rollout, we digress. The rollout is late November for targeted release for the whole organization. And we talked about this in previous weeks about the 3 different ways to selecting what your tenant is. And if it's a targeted tenant for your organization, late November through mid-December, so a couple weeks. And then if it's standard release, you'll be getting it mid-January through the end of January of the next year, calendar year, 2021. It seems pretty simple. You're going to be able to create these rules, delete them, edit them. It doesn't really I didn't see any indication on, are you only able to edit the ones you set up, or is it for everyone, that sets these things up? But so that'll be interesting to see. There is a limit of 15 rules per list. So just know that you can't have more than 15 rules. But so anyway, it'll be good to play around with. And I think I need to make a note of this, but I think I'll do a video on this once I get it in my tenant to play around with. So yeah, exciting times.
Yeah,
creating these list rules.
Yeah, and it does mean that you can make the lists a little more interactive and have some pull for when there are updates. How do you respond and what do you want to do with that?
Yeah,
right.
Which kind of, we've got this update for lists where we can create rules. What would be great is if we can make our list look better in Microsoft Lists and SharePoint. What do you think?
Look better. Well, okay, yeah. Maybe we can make it look better. I don't know. Let's take a look at this message. Configuring lists of library forms for Microsoft Lists and SharePoint lists. That's MC2274452. This is not so much as the message is not so much about changing data and changing things within files, but how a list form is presented. Modern SharePoint, we edit a list item, we've got our panel, we've got the various different fields we can fill out. This is about being able to deliver a bit of guidance and maybe some more information or references around the form that you're filling out. So going a bit further than just being an item to fill out and add information. So what I like about this is that you can edit the header, the footer, the body of the form, and you can introduce other bits of guidance. So we'll just have a look at some of the additional information around this. And admittedly, it took me a little while to find this because I was checking these things out from my phone rather than from the computer. I still find that difference between looking at the admin app versus looking at it online, getting information about the messages. So looking at it from the docs.com site, you can edit these columns or configure the layout using JSON. So you'll go into the editing the list, and configuring the header, for example. They've given some examples there of adding additional information. I haven't done a lot of this sort of work within JSON, but at least it's another example of where we can grab some code to begin with and I guess get a little creative as we go.
Our old friend Jason.
Yeah, JSON. But the couple of ways that I think that are going to be useful, especially this one that kind of inspires me, is sometimes you do want to provide some guidance or click here to find out more. And by having this within the item, like in this case here, contact details for someone, we can go through and get some more of that guidance or find a subject matter expert that's related to this item. So not much more that I can say about that. I'm sure there are plenty of other people that are far more creative than me than thinking about these.
This is one of the, I think, if you think about why people start using SharePoint Designer and customizing SharePoint with it in the past, this was one of them. I have a list that when people enter information in the form for this list, I want to do things like I want to call out some information, like I want to bold it, I want to put in sections so I can make it a little bit more readable, right? So that it's not just a bunch of things they have to fill in. I want to put it into a more readable format. Well, this is one of those things. Other things we use SharePoint Designer for, workflow and some other things. But for that, here's the functionality we're gaining that gives us that exact thing. Now, what I'm going to look for in the future, and I hope that this is coming, is an easier method of doing this. We've seen this when our old friend Jason is used. JSON is used for formatting. Initially, it was good luck. Hopefully you know how to use this, even though it's the first time you've ever been exposed to JSON. And then Microsoft said, okay, here's some examples, copy and paste from this. And then it was, we're going to give you some examples those are on docs.microsoft. It was on a different website, right? And then it was, we're going to give you some code examples in SharePoint itself. And then it was, now we actually have and I'm talking about list formatting, we have the ability to actually not use JSON anymore. Sorry, Jason, not use JSON anymore. And really, we are using JSON, but they've put a nice UI on it to where our users can just say, I want this to be read and be done, right? And they can kind of create their rules for that formatting. So I'm hoping in the future, we'll get that same functionality with this as well, where it'll be easy for users to just do this formatting without having to know code. JSON is code. And if you disagree with me, those that are watching live, you can throw that in the chat, or you can hit me up on Twitter and we can have a nice conversation where I can prove you wrong. But I'm excited about this filling in that gap where Microsoft has said, okay, we don't want you using SharePoint Designer anymore. Okay, fine, but how are we going to do these kind of things? Well, here's one solved.
So I know that we've had JSON for dressing up the list and making columns formatted differently. So this is more about formatting the form itself to highlight in bold, this is an important thing, and adjusting the body of the form too.
Yeah. Yes. And so this is when I'm editing a form or I'm entering a new item in the form, filling in that metadata for those columns, whether it's in a list or whether it's in a document library and it's metadata on that file. It's separating things out. Okay. You can put them in sections of, this is information about organizational categorization. So, categorizing the document, for instance. And then this is a section for workflow. This is a section for how we're going to determine labels and how we need to do retention for this document, things like that, so that users can understand what is all this information and what does it have to do with it. Give it a little bit more information.
That is useful because if you're expecting people to fill out a number of different items within a list item, and it's all just this stream of consciousness, I think it's far better to have them in sections, and it's almost like this switch as you're going into each of those topics that you know what to need to fill out. Anyway, rounding that up, this is rolling out late November now. Expect to be complete end of November. How does that work? That's targeted release. So it should be in my tenant. Maybe I'll have a look after the show. Standard release mid-December, and should be completed for everyone mid-January 2021.
Just to let you know, I don't have it yet, and I am targeted release on my tenant, on my demo tenant, and I don't have it yet. So, oh well. Yeah. Maybe they're late.
Exactly. Daniel, have you ever had to set up SharePoint sites, portals that get significant traffic and may need to be, gradually released?
Absolutely. That's a significant part of my job, is developing intranets and portals and helping organizations communicate with their employees. And that is one of my jobs, and it can be difficult. How do you get a certain population to use this new portal and get some feedback and understand how they're going to use it so that you maybe improve it? And then even on launch, so you can gradually get ramped up people using it. Well, now we have a way of doing that. This is introducing SharePoint Portal Launch Scheduler, MC 227532. And that's exactly what this is. The ability for you to say, this group of people, I want them to utilize this new portal as their SharePoint home, as their place where they're going to get their information, right? So this is perfect for when you are launching a new intranet and you want to get feedback, or you want to just gradually get people utilizing it. You can maybe target those people who are your power users, I guess your champions, get them familiarized with it and giving them the abilities to say, oh, this is great, and I can help my fellow associates and my fellow employees utilize this, and then you can gradually roll it out to your people. So this allows admins and site owners to, verify all of those things we've done, those new functionality, the new way we're presenting news, or whatever it is, to verify that, it's going to work for our user base. So it's fantastic. The way you do this is via a PowerShell command, and you can, set it up in waves. And you can schedule those waves. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to turn it on now and there it is. You can actually schedule this out and have this rolling out to your users. So the portal launch scheduler, it really doesn't, you're not changing permissions or anything like that. It really is just getting them, your users starting to utilize that site, like I said, in those waves that you want to have.
It's interesting guidance they've got there around the waves, and depending on how many people you've got to, I guess. Yep. When I first read this, Daniel, I thought, is this about load testing SharePoint? Because surely, we shouldn't have to worry about that. The service is looked after by Microsoft. Is this more about the customizations and things that you might add into your intranet that might need more load testing?
Yes and no. I mean, this is about those changes. So don't think of this as just a way to launch a new portal that, you're going from classic to modern experience, or you're going from on-prem to, this is also about, we've got our existing one. We've created a new landing page or a new landing site way we're doing our intranet, and we're integrating with other systems, and we are maybe have some third party, maybe we're doing some P&P stuff, and we just don't know how it's going to work with everybody hitting it at once. So that's another reason why you might want to do this. So it is about custom stuff that you're trying to test, but it is also just, like I said before, about getting that feedback and understanding how people are going to use it as well. And even the message talks about, and the post talks about monitoring performance. So it is about, unfortunately, some of those things, some of those P&P solutions we develop does have a performance hit on our sites. And we've talked about before about the ability to see your site's performance and see what kind of items on your page are causing performance issues. So this is a way for you to kind of test that under a little bit of a load. Yep.
Right. Now, if I misunderstood it too, I think what I'm getting here is that you can share parts of the site with certain audiences and almost like reveal that to them. Because I mean, in the past, you can just change the permissions on the site and just allow maybe 5 or 6 change champions, for example, to go in and check things out, give you feedback. But is this even more granular than
it? Yes, it is. It's not permissions. This is not going to manage permissions. This is just like you said, when you said audience, that is correct. Those that have been in the SharePoint world know there's a difference between permissions and audiences. So this is that audience experience, how we're going to designate and get people starting to use it, and those people that we want to do those kind of tests that we've been talking about for the last few minutes. So that you will have to manage your permissions and making sure that everyone that you put in the wave actually has permissions to the site. So yeah, that'll be rolling out early December 2020. And completely rolled out early January 2021.
So maybe just in time for some launches in the new year.
Yep.
Very nice.
In the new year. Yep, that'll be nice. So how am I going to transition to this next one? If you're going to have a live event in Yammer to talk about your launch of your new portal, you may want to, manage that Q&A and comments in that event, right?
Exactly, Daniel. Yes. And this is where people, very nice. You might as well say the circle is circular. Never mind. Managing Q&A and comments in Yammer live events. We have a few options for running live events in Microsoft 365. Teams live events, Yammer live events, Stream live events. And there's a really good playbook, which is also referenced in this message, MC227467. Good playbook that talks about the different options and why you would choose one over the other for certain scenarios. And let's make it clear. It's not as if one is better than the other. You do think about what kind of event you want to run and what kind of engagement you want. I've seen live events for Teams being used because, for one, it's the only option that allows you to go publicly and use the live events to reach customers and bring in people that way. But it's also internally the only option currently that you have for moderating Q&A. Now, the strengths around Yammer are that if you want an ongoing conversation where it's not just down to having Q&A within the event and that's it, someone has to list out the questions that still need to be responded and go off and do a blog post. With Yammer, it's about having that ongoing conversation or even adding those questions before the event. And that's what this message is about. It is introducing, to an extent, some not moderation, but management of when people can ask questions and answer them and respond. So the goal here is that thinking about an event, you've got before, during, and after. And there is a simple switch. Let's have a quick look at that. I believe it was this screenshot. So when you are setting up the live event in Yammer, there will be a new switch, enable Q&A comments for attendees. You can start an event and not focus on taking questions beforehand or have people distracted and dropping in certain things while they're in the event. Maybe your event is all about transmitting information and getting that across in an engaging way, then opening up for questions. All right, so this is what you would use to set the tone to begin with. No questions at the start. The other option is while you're in the event, using this switch, you can open up for questions. And so you're listening and you may be planning that particular activity when the live event. You could start saying, look, we're going to open up for questions soon, so start typing them in and we'll start addressing them as we can. And lots of us have attended meetings, I know Daniel has too, where even if it's just an online meeting, we tend to get very busy chat going on, which can be distracting, not only for the presenter, but producers and even attendees as well, sort of drawing away our attention from what is being presented. So those are our few options. It's not really the options I was hoping for, because I did hear that there was some moderation capabilities coming to Yammer live events. This is what they meant, which means that you can turn Q&A on and off.
That's not moderation.
Yeah, it's not. No, moderation is that question appropriate? I'll give it a private answer. I will publish it so that other people can see it. We don't yet have, in Yammer in general, a way to publish, or kind of do, scheduling in the Yammer messages yet. I think that was mentioned at Ignite, but there needs to be a bit more work for us as live event hosts to use Q&A in Yammer and moderate those answers. But I think at least this controls the flow of when questions can be asked and answered. And at the end of the event, maybe you disable it. Maybe that's the end of the discussion. I suggest that that's one of the strengths of Yammer, is that this is where you can continue to grow that knowledge and continue to engage people after the event. So I wouldn't be turning it off, but it depends.
Yeah, and I think just from the people I've talked to and my personal experience with my clients and even my own company, when we talk about live events, we're in teams. And it's so fine if you're using Yammer, but if you've been using Teams for this experience and you start using this Q&A, wait a minute, it's different than you have in Teams. Teams, you do have moderation. You do have the capability of saying, that's not a great comment. I don't want everybody seeing that. Or and I'm not just talking about malicious or anything kind of like that. Sometimes it's the audio sounds terrible, or you're speaking too loud, or whatever. You don't want to publish that. You just want to take action and fix it. So anyway, I would like to see that here, so it's a little bit better for engaging, and because if you turn this Q&A on, it's kind of like when you're in a session or you're in a presentation and you lean over next to the person next to you and you go, I don't really think that's going to be appropriate. I don't like what they're talking about right now. That's terrible. Well, it's kind of like, instead of doing that, you're in that same session or presentation and you're going, I don't like this at all. This is not great. I don't think you should be doing this.
Hey, all company.
And everyone that is part of your event is listening and seeing that. That's not right.
Yeah.
So anyway, the thing about Yammer is, though, it's at least I know who said it, I guess, but I don't know. I just feel like we need that same functionality where we can moderate. Yeah. Enough. I'm done with my soapbox.
Oh, come on. Sorry. You're never done with your soapbox. It's just right there and ready to use. Kind of like, step aerobics and getting up on that. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there. Sorry, Daniel. Look, there's more that I could say about this. I know that there are various times and reasons why you'd use different methods. I do like that with Yammer, you can, at the end of the event, do a wrap-up news post, and then embed, say, the top 5 questions that were really engaging and keep that conversation going. Yet to see that coming for Microsoft Teams. I would hope to see the ability to embed a conversation in let's say, an org-wide team, for example, and embed that in SharePoint. But there you go. There's a few options there for controlling the flow of questions. Now, I know backstage, Daniel, we were talking about whether or not you wanted or had a third message. Do you want me to jump into this last comment I have?
Yeah, let's talk about, are you going to talk about the apps?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's, and I mentioned it, I guess I gave it away at the beginning of the show, the question I have around this. Now, this is a standard message that we do see each month. It is when there are some updates to Office Pro Plus, and like Word might get some new editor feature that gives you some coaching around how you should be using language and great sort of things like that. Or Other things along the same line. So we used to seeing this message, and sometimes we probably just look over it. Let's just jump into what we have here, current channel. Right. And perhaps I should have mentioned.
What is the name of the message there, Darrell?
Yeah, message. Updates available for Microsoft 365 apps for current channel. Huh? Updates available for Microsoft 365 apps for current channel. Microsoft 365 app. Have I repeated it enough?
Man,
MC227 448. And let's look at release notes. So Microsoft 365 apps. Hang on, Darrell, you've got me already confused. Are we talking about Microsoft 365 apps or Office apps that we might download and use, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, etc.? Looks like that's what it is, and that's really my main comment. The channel page that we go to and get the details and what has updated in November. What's this version? 2011, November 23rd, the release. We can see, we can switch Office themes automatically for Access. Oh, and Excel and OneNote and Outlook and PowerPoint and great. Okay, there are other things too to read into and see. SVG support for Excel. So do take a look at these and figure out what you might want to promote and help people understand that there's an improvement within Office. But the big discussion I've got going here, and we'll keep it brief and maybe just let it spill out over our people in the chat and on Twitter and the like. Why are we calling it Microsoft 365 apps? I know we have Office that's on the desktop, and we have Microsoft 365, which I think of as the service and platform. Apps like Forms and SharePoint are considered as an app, I guess. What do you think, Daniel, about this naming? Is it going to get confusing?
Well, yes, and I think we've been talking about this, I don't know, for a year, about this whole naming scheme of what's an app, what's a and we come into Outlook. We do it a lot too. Is it OA, which is Outlook Web Access? Well, that's not what it's called.
Outlook on the web, my man.
Outlook
OWA
on the web,
is Outlook is Office Web App. Oh wait,
Outlook,
Microsoft 365.
Right, Outlook app, I guess, is the one you install on your desktop. So, and you've probably seen this if you're using Office as part of your subscription, and I'm going to say Office right now, just because that's what most people call it, is Office, this grouping of applications that you can install because you have a Microsoft 365 license that gives you that. When you open those, it says Excel or Word or what PowerPoint, but right under it, what does it say now? It's been saying this for a few months. It says Microsoft 365. It doesn't say Office anywhere. And so this is the, I guess the trail end, because we've seen this in various, it's not Office anymore. The only thing Office that I have seen, and we could talk about it, but the only thing Office is the actual license that you purchase for users is an Office 365 like E5 or E3, because there is a difference between that and a Microsoft 365 license, which includes some additional functionality like Windows
10 and security and compliance stuff. Yep.
Right. So that's the only place you'll find Office now, unless you go and buy it off the shelf. And even if you buy it off the shelf, it's going to say Microsoft 365 on it.
See,
so
I think this is one step too far, Like, I know that Microsoft 365 is the service used to deliver SharePoint, Excel, Power. Also Office Pro Plus in terms of a perpetual, constantly updating subscription of Office. Yep. But to then go one step further and call Office Microsoft 365 apps,
and it's where it is. I think it's an interesting turn, and that's a marketing thing. Really, that's all it is. The functionality is the same. The Office is that that behemoth in Microsoft that has made them so much money over the years, because it's a great grouping of applications. I mean, Excel is amazing, Word, great, Outlook, everybody uses it, right? So fantastic applications. And then to take that cash cow, if you've studied your economics, you take that cash cow and rename it. Maybe that's a way to reinvigorate. I don't know.
Well, I think
And
it is
honestly, if you
about,
know your economics and you talk about cash cows actually eventually die, and so you actually have to.
well, they get
No, that's
bloated.
serious.
They get
Well,
bloated. I was a
yeah,
dairy farmer's son, and I
yeah,
know I saw some cows
yeah,
that overate.
yeah. So it is something that they're just reinvigorating the platform. But you're right,
Yeah,
there's going to be some confusion. So
yeah. To me, it's tearing down a barrier, so that I think they're trying to coach us into thinking that there are Office apps, which are now going to be Microsoft 365 apps that you install on your desktop, and then there are apps which are forms and things that are purely online. Sway, for example, yeah, it's all one and the same and all one thing. Anyway, I just thought I'd point that out. The function of this message doesn't change. It's just that you'll have to get used to seeing Office being called Microsoft 365 apps. I can't help you with with that. Hey, finishing off, and I know like we've only got a few minutes, and I wanted to just push this conversation along. Productivity score. We covered a message recently in the message center around the general availability of productivity score, something that had been around for about a year. Some organizations had been had access to it early and were testing it. And how would you describe productivity score, Daniel? What is the basic idea of it?
are you using the tools that are available to you to do your job, and in an effective way? If I had to say it in one sentence, that's what I would say. Now, is it the tools that you need to use? I don't know, but it's what Microsoft thinks that you should be using. So, but is it? Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah, I'd go with an explanation like that. That when you take a closer look at the service, don't just look at the name, don't just look at what has been said on social media and in various different blog posts. Productivity score is looking deeper at how you are using the services in Microsoft 365. Let's just say they're Microsoft 365 apps and services, and they have some guidance around what they consider to be best practice. And it's a start. There are different categories for how you think about it: communication, collaboration, various sorts of things. And it does measure, are you using at mentions? How are you working with files? Are you reading them, sharing them, collaborating on them? And it comes up with a score, much like we see the security score, except what we have seen on social media and in public is people getting really hung up on this word productivity score. They're concerned that managers and people are going to use this as a measure of, are you doing your job? How many emails have you sent today, and how many files are you sharing, and all that sort of thing. But what they don't realize, because they haven't taken a close look at the service themselves, is that productivity score, whether it's badly named or not, gives you points for sharing a document. You get 1 point for sharing, 1 point for reading, 1 point for collaborating on it. That's it. You don't get multiple points for doing this multiple times. This is measuring how you're using the tool so that you can target your change management and adoption activities. That's the point.
Yep, which are
Anything
good
to add there?
things to be doing. No,
Yeah.
and it's good things to be doing. And it really can help when you have those situations. And I'm not saying that my company is one of them, but it could help in situations where you have people sending too many attachments, and that's what they do. And you have all of these files in your emails, and people are back and forth and back and forth. And what version are we using now?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of conversations. That is just one example that this can help. And it's just kind of a prodding along, not just one person or those champions in your organization saying, hey, by the way, could you quit sending me attachments?
Yep.
This is the actual service saying, hey, there's a better way to do this.
Yes.
And give you some points, some gamification of it all. So
that's the purpose of the tool. Now let's talk about how that tool is used and set up. We had Microsoft 365 usage analytics, and we still do, right? This is giving you the analytics flat, right? Saying this is what's happening in the service, this is how people are using it. But it didn't really tell the stories. This is what Productivity Score improves on. It says, well, let's actually help you tell a story around how this is used, and then give you some guidance around how to improve the use of this tool to improve your productivity. And they have based it around Gartner surveys and various things to back that up in terms of the scenario that they're trying to solve. But setting this up, much like Microsoft 365 Usage Analytics, Productivity Score is available to service admins and global admins to begin with. You can access that if you're an admin. If you want to give people access to it outside of being an admin, they get added to a report reader role explicitly, right? And you are not going to be adding line managers to that role. This is the purpose of the tool, is to help coach people towards using the tools in a productive way, not about measuring how productive you are, because that's beyond the tools. That is about you setting goals and KPIs and whatever your business alignment is. So that's really one of my main points. If you're an admin and you have access to this service, yeah, sure, you're going to be able to go down the bottom and see a table of people's names and how many times they've used @mention, how many times they've shared an attachment versus sharing a link to a file. You have access to that, just like you did with M365 Usage Analytics. As a global admin, you can flick a switch to anonymize that. So if you do have that requirement to anonymize that data, you do that before you share it with report reader roles. And thirdly, I really suggest you don't give this to line managers unless they have a vested interest in helping the change and adoption programs and campaigns that are running in your organization. Hopefully that clears some of it up. What do you think, Daniel? Is that clear?
It is. Well said. I think it's a functionality you need to manage. So in a way that you would manage other functionality, instead of just letting it happen. If this is something that you need to anonymize, go do that. What is preventing you from doing that? Go anonymize it before you share it, either sharing the reports or you're sharing via giving people the permission to go view them. So you said it.
Yep.
I think it's great.
And it's over to you as an organization to work out what's best practice for you. You will see some guidance from Microsoft. And if we think about it, sometimes this is backwards engineered in the sense that we've created this great feature. It was requested of us. So we want to help you see how great that is, and we're going to guide you towards that. But maybe that feature's not so great for your org. Work it out for yourself. Work out what best practice is for yourself. This is just a starting point, and you work out what you want to measure. I've got plenty more to say. I think it's almost worth a debate, actually, with a few other people on a panel. What do you reckon?
Maybe. I think, it seems like I won't be on the other side of the debate because I agree with you.
Yeah.
But it seems like as long as it's explained well, then maybe people will understand what it's trying to do. Yes, you may have those reports that you don't want people seeing individual usage and how they're using the service. But okay, fine, anonymize it. And then what's your complaint? So I feel like it's something that is just education more than should you or shouldn't you? I don't know.
Well, that is the show, I think, and we'll end it on that, and continue to talk about it. Ask us about it on Twitter, and see some of these conversations in various blog posts and people throwing their arms up in righteous indignation about, oh, how dare they? But take that guidance. It's in your control. If you're an admin, and be in control. And that's it for the week. Tune in next time, and it'll be episode 174. We've got a few more to get in before the holiday break. Yeah,
that's right.
All right.
So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.